So hello everyone, we're going to today be teaching you how to get your Gordon Ramsay on, but not too complicated and not with too much lamb sauce. So we are going to be cooking a unique way of doing scrambled eggs. So for those of you who already know how to make scrambled eggs, this will be a bit of review and also some additional tips and things you could do to jazz up your already amazing meal. And for those who have never done scrambled eggs, well then here you are. You will learn everything and some additional tips and you'll be experts by the end of this. So to start off, we're going to use a few things supply-wise. So you're going to want just a basic pan, your stove or not hot plate because of code of conduct in terms of the dorms, a spatula, a whisk or a fork, something just to mix up the eggs later on, several eggs, duck sauce, peanut oil, a bowl to eat it out of at the end, your fork and knife, and just some place to put the utensils after they're dirty. So, also just a disclaimer, for those who are allergic to peanuts, you can use other types of oils. I recommend coconut oil, but I do not recommend olive oil or vegetable oil because they sort of clash with the eggs and the duck sauce. We'll get to that later on though. So to start off, I'm just going to turn our hot plate on, get it heated up, just right while we're doing other things so that it has time to get sufficiently heated up. So first off, we are going to start with whisking our eggs. So we are going to just be careful there not to make a mess. Just make sure you don't get any shells there, and if you do, it's not the end of the world, just take it out. Put it on the side there. So I'm going to do the basic amount, usually 2 eggs. It's sufficient for about 1 regular meal for someone. You can do 3 if you're a bit extra hungry, or 1 if it's just a side. So we start out with that in our mixing bowl. So next up, we're just going to whisk those eggs up a little bit, break them up. And now when you're doing this, you're going to want to whisk it until it's the same consistency and there's not really much visible yolk. And it's just going to be all one kind of blended together. Also an additional tip, if you would like to add some more texture to your eggs, you can add just a drop of milk as well to spice it up a little bit, but I'm not going to be doing that today. I'm going to just keep it basic. So once you have your eggs mixed up sufficiently to about this consistency, you can do a little bit more, a little bit less, depending. You're going to just want to put your hand over the pan just to make sure that it's sufficiently hot. So we got still a little bit of time to get that there. So in the meantime, I'm just going to go over some of the basic things that you can do to jazz it up. So depending on when you cook the eggs, you're going to put it in there, and if you like it a little bit over easy or runnier or a bit more well done, you're still going to be looking to toss it and turn it very quickly, rapidly, so that you don't just cook one side of it. You also don't want places to be raw at risk of disease and salmonella and stuff like that. You also don't want to bite into just raw egg, and it really ruins the appetite. So now our hot plate is, our not hot plate is starting to get heated a little bit there. So what you're going to do now, which is the different step, is you're just going to pour your assorted oil choice, preferably peanut oil, onto the pan just a little bit to coat it. And you can see right there. Now what you're going to want to do is just kind of shake it a little bit and get the oil coated all over it. So that way you have a nice base there, and it also serves as a non-stick, so you do not need to use PAM or any additional cooking spray. So now that our pan is a bit hot, we might want to lay it a little bit more and just make sure it's even in consistency. We're going to take our mixture of eggs or milk as well additionally in it, and we're just going to pour it right into the pan. Now just a warning before we get into this, because it's going to be rather quick. With this version of scrambled eggs versus regular ones, it's going to cook much quicker because of the oil being quickly heated, and you're going to have to flip it very quickly. So I like my eggs a little bit more over easy or runny. However, you still have to sufficiently cook your eggs, like I said earlier, so that you're not at risk of disease or salmonella, and also you don't want that raw egg taste. So also just in advance, something to think about. With the oil, if depending on the temperature, it can only be up to certain 15 seconds. I'm talking it's very hot and will cook very quickly, especially if you do less eggs. It'll cook quicker because there's less amount to cook. So our pan is sufficiently heated, and when I pour this in, you're going to want to be careful to not splash the oil onto yourself. That could cause some severe burns, and it's not a fun time. So We're just going to put that into there. So it's not as hot as a regular stove, but you're still going to want to turn it regularly. And see that little white area there? That means the egg is cooking, and you're just going to want to keep cooking it and keep stirring it like this and flipping it so that each side of the egg gets sufficiently cooked. So this one's going to take a little bit longer because it's on a hot plate. However, it'll still do fine, just a little bit more time. So you're going to keep wanting to turn it over as well. Make sure that it gets that same egg consistency as regular scrambled eggs as well. Make sure you just keep flipping. You can even break it up as well because you don't want just one big blob that kicks unevenly. So mine's a little bit uneven, over easy rather. So I like it a little bit like this, but we're gonna do a little bit more just to make sure we get rid of that yolky bits there. Get that nice texture there. Make sure you also scrape off the eggs from the side of the pan, so you don't want the parts burning at all, and you don't want any leftover egg there. And you want to get all the food you can. Just make sure you flip there, make sure it's even. Now some of you who like it a little bit more, if you see a little bit of brown on the egg, that's perfectly fine, that's normal. It'll just be a little bit more tender than just regular scrambled eggs. Just do a little bit more here, just that one little bit there, that's a bit more runny than the rest. Just break it up one last little time there. Now you're going to want to turn off your stove or hot plate. And just be careful with dumping it because it is extremely hot, and you're just going to want to pour it into your end result bowl. So we're just going to set this on the side here. Also, something to be aware of, the stove and the pan are still hot, and there will still be some egg residue on there. You might want to soak it as well, just so that it doesn't stick and stay onto your spatula or pan. Now, this is where it's a little bit different. So you're going to take your duck sauce and just uncap that. And depending on how many eggs you used, you're going to take about one spoonful of duck sauce, or one forkful in this instance, and pour it in there. If you like it a little bit more sweet, you can add a little bit more, and if you just like the egg taste as well, you don't have to do this, this is optional, but it also is a very nice touch, so I'm just going to put a little bit more. I like mine a little bit sweeter, so I'm going to do a little bit more. So now you have that duck sauce in there, and just stir it up until there's no more globs of duck sauce. And just want an even consistency, because you don't want to bite into a glob of duck sauce there either, really. You want it to be very even in terms of taste. So that should be good about that. And then you are good to go. Be careful about it being hot from the pan rather when you just cooked it. However, the duck sauce should cool it a little bit, so you should be fine to eat it. And then you are good to go. And yeah, there you go. Haley, do you want to try it as my volunteer?
Oh, of course I will.
Yeah, you can do it on the... Here, go for it. Tell me the taste results.
Let's see. Is it zesty? We'll find out. Honestly, that's really good. No, yeah.
This is not scripted, by the way. This
that's
is the first
solid.
time trying it.
No, that's the first time trying it. That's pretty solid. I'm gonna...
Take the bowl. Alright, and cut.